Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from Black midwives, doulas, and other traditional childbirth supporters who have dedicated their lives to being of service to Black mothers and families in all aspects of the motherhood journey. I am your host, Hafiza Touré, and this evening I have the privilege of being joined by State Representative Robyn Porter, traditional midwife Gianna Hodges, lay midwife, doula, and shaman Lady Holly, doula, lactation consultant Angelica Knight, and certified full-spectrum wellness doula Janice Ingram. This is a solutions-oriented conversation from those who are actively doing the work. We recently testified, myself and Representative Porter, at the State Capitol here in Connecticut for State Bill 986, Protecting Maternal Health. And during those testimonies, the questions that were asked by the policymakers made it very evident to us that there's a disconnect in the understanding of why, as Black birthing people in this nation, we are facing the alarming statistics that we are. This isn't the first conversation, and it absolutely will not be the last. But please join us, comment, share, and be a part of the dialogue. Welcome.
Well, Grand Rising Queens, I tell you, it is an honor to be in your presence. I thank you, Hafiza, for hosting this roundtable. I believe that it's a very critical and important conversation, timely, overdue, actually. Conversation at large. I'm just really excited. We came to this because the governor decided that he wanted to put forth a bill, Senate Bill 986, the Act Protecting Maternal Health. I have been in conversations with people in the building around starting a caucus around this because I felt like we needed to be specific and intentional about the policies that would be coming forth. And then the public hearing came up. So I started reaching out, made connections, just like a God, the Spirit does. I'm good friends with Hafiza's mom. We do a lot of work in the community, working around some very specific stuff regarding the methadone clinic we're trying to keep out of the neighborhood. And just in conversation, found out that I actually had some doulas in New Haven, which I didn't realize, and just started educating myself around doulas, midwives, and started doing research to see, what were the solutions. And as I looked at Black maternal and infant mortality and morbidity, it became quite evident that that was the missing link, that they weren't being utilized or even talked about in a way that sounded like they could be a solution. So I started looking up the midwives, the doulas. Senator Moore did a lot of work around this. Planned Parenthood was doing a lot of work around this, and this was pre-COVID, and it kind of fell off the table. So this year we're back at it, and I want to make sure as we craft this policy that it is indeed protecting maternal health, but specifically, Black maternal health, because we are the ones that are disproportionately impacted, and we know what the solutions are. So the public hearing just thrust me even further because of the questions that came up. To me, it was like, what? Like, do people really still believe these kind of things? Like, we have thicker skin, we have a higher tolerance for pain, it's genetic, like it's something we're doing. And I'm like, well, it's something we're being subjected to. So I'm looking to build a base and work with Hafiza and the other doulas and midwives in the area to really educate our community, because at the end of the day, the only way we're going to get this policy right is if we have what I call outside interference, right? The folks outside the building, the constituents, the community, the people that are being directly impacted. And what I'm finding is Black women don't really know a lot about this. And the ones that do, they can't afford it, right? So there's the two main issues that I'm running into around education and around affordability. So we're pushing in this bill to make sure that Medicaid covers, doula expenses, because that is the majority of the population of women who are being disproportionately impacted. That's their health care. And the fact that Medicaid is not currently covering this is a big gap. So trying to bridge that gap. Um, and I could go on talking about this, but I'm really here to hear from the people closest to the problems because I believe they're closest to the solutions, but furthest from the power. So I'm here for you all to empower me so that I can be in that building, advocating and champion policy that's going to be right for what it is we're trying to fix.
Yeah. So in no specific order, if anyone, wants to contribute just some of your real world experiences around where you feel solutions lie. I just ask that you, say your name and, your organization and the area in which you're physically located.
I'll go first. I'm Gianna Hodges. I am a certified doula, a certified lactation counselor, and a community midwife. So I'm a home birth midwife. I'm the first and only Black home birth midwife in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I also am one of the lead doulas of a hospital-based doula program at McGee Women's Hospital. So UPMC is the largest health network in our area. McGee Women's Hospital is the largest birthing hospital in our area. At McGee, there are about 12,000 babies born a year. So the very first thing I think, and this is maybe a larger thing, is making out of hospital birth options an option. And here in Pittsburgh, there are home birth midwives. Here it's illegal, so it's not illegal or legal to have a home birth. And then there's a birth center. So that's one of the things for the larger conversation is women being able to, birthing persons being able to choose to not go to the hospital, what that means, and knowing whether, we have to be safe about this. So in my practice at Divine Judy and Dege, that's my private practice. It translates to Divine Indigenous Healing. And we home birth while everyone is safe with an agreement with the hospital, a transfer agreement. So we have a transfer agreement here with 3 hospitals. And if things take a left, we transfer in and our mothers are protected. I go with them, actually, as a matter of fact. But on the doula side of it, in Pennsylvania, we're working towards Medicaid paying for doulas, but at a living wage. So our advisory committee is Black. Black doulas we have a Black doula advisory committee with the state. And we talked about the very first thing being a living wage so that we can train more doulas. The second thing was we came up with skills for doulas to have, but from the Black perspective, because there are a lot of Black women that are naturally doulas. They may not have had formal training through DONA, which is what they consider the gold standard, but they still have the training and they still have the knowledge. So we built the skill set based on that. So now we have what's called a Pennsylvania certification. And so that the doulas can bill as providers. So that's what's happening here in Pennsylvania. In Pittsburgh, like I said, we have a hospital-based doula program. And if there isn't one in Connecticut already or in the states that you guys are in, because I'm biased to Black women, and I think that our issues should be taken care of by us. We should not be having to hand over our issues to white women who have no idea what's really going on. If you don't have hospital-based doula program, the doula practices, I think, should approach the hospitals and say, let me come in and build a doula program. Let me come in or serve this hospital. My group of doulas serve this hospital. So that's what we do. We at the Birth Circle, the community-based doula program, we serve 550 women on average per year. So I think from solutions, having a hospital-based doula program, because we don't require it's free for us on the hospital level, it's free. So I think that's number one, having free doula care. We're paid by the hospital. So that's, I think, number one thing to start on that level is asking the hospitals, can we come in and serve the women here? You can start with, if there's someone who comes in with no support, call us, we'll come, and then develop a contract with the hospital. But I think if you don't already have one, the Black women should approach that.
I think that's a great idea. I want to share the bill language with you so that you can take a look at it, because the part that we were really concentrating on were birth centers, doulas, and midwives. And what I found interesting was that it's a single birth. So I'm like, well, what if someone's having twins or triplets or, multiple births? They don't get the option of having a home, like going to a birth center. That's what it was applying to. And I was like, well, is that saying that, and I don't know, so I'm asking you all, because this is the work that you do, is that customary? I mean, like, is it customary for multiple births to have complications? Is that the expectation? Is there data to support that, multiple births can't be done at a birth center without complications? Because that was one thing that I didn't know which way to argue, like, do we need to say it should just be a single birth, or should women that are having multiple births be able to have the option, the choice of a birthing center?
So I think from a midwife's perspective, there are higher complications with twins, multiples. Here at our birth center, they do not deliver twins at our birth centers, just the way the laws are written. So if you are a CNM here in Pennsylvania, you cannot deliver babies at home. I am a traditional midwife, so I can deliver babies at home. I deliver twins, but I was specifically trained to deliver twins and breech presentations. So when you're looking at multiples, the first thing is what's the presentation? Because there are the mono twins, there are mono di twins, and di twins. Di twins are less complications. And then there are risk factors. The age of the mother, any health complications, preeclampsia is an increased risk. I just gave birth to mono twins, and despite everything that I did, they were born at 26 weeks. So there are higher complications with twins. So I think the fight to have twins be able to be delivered in the birth center, I think twins, when you're looking at triplets, quadruplets, the risk factors are much, much higher. I think that's a big fight just because of the complications. I watch my twin moms very carefully, like a hawk. I'm watching my twin moms, but there's a lot that can happen. In my situation, my baby number one, as they were wheeling me to the OR because my water broke and everything started happening really fast to put me to sleep to have these babies, one of them just came out. And the doctor was like, okay, the other one is head down too, quick ultrasound, we're good. And he wasn't. Next thing I know, I saw this tiny little foot. And the doctor that delivered him, I just got lucky. She was a fellow from Guatemala. And she ended up, his foot came out, but the other one was kind of crossed. And she ended up needing to break his femur to get him out. So that's kind of what the issue is with twins. It's like, if you don't know how to deliver any other presentation other than Vertex, that second baby doesn't always behave. So I think that's a much larger fight that comes down the road. I think the bigger fight is the option to deliver a singleton at home. You'd be better off, you'd be easier to get that one through than multiples.
Yeah. So that answers my question. And that is how it's written. So I'm fine with that. I was just curious as to, women who happen to be having multiple births having the option to do that. But from what you're describing, Singleton is the way to go, and the safest way to go. And that's what it's all about as well. It's making sure that mom and baby are safe.
Absolutely.
Lady Holly, you were getting ready to say something.
Please.
Well, I'm about to say, I just highest heart and profound gratitude. I'm so excited when I saw this hit. I used to work for USAID in gender health for many, many years. And so female reproductive rights has been something that I have that's just where my passion is on one side of the house. And so, we've written so much. We came up with Millennium Development Goals around maternal morbidity, infant, the whole myriad underneath Anna Langer was so amazing. So I've had the ability to do that and then transcend. So coming from California, I was a midwife here in New York. I did not finish my midwifery here. And then during COVID, they wanted me to get the of course, COVID shot to be able to complete it. I was like, I'll stay in my spiritual doula lane. Thank you. Because you're not going to tell me I need that to do that. No, thank you. 1 and 1 is not equal to. So I get involved, I guess, from a policy level and an advocacy level, but New York has a little bit better fight in this game because we do have a much more broad Black and pockets of Black and brown communities, and so the citywide doula program is up and running. So in terms of legislature, I would tell you we don't fought long and hard to get it through Medicaid and to so I was just looking at the rules so that that the initiative provides you with the no cost to the resident, right? Because if they're on the program in those neighborhoods, they need to be in the neighborhood. So there's like a kind of a cluster map that they did originally when we wrote this. Anywhere in New York, they're income eligible for Medicaid. So since that, like you said, that is their insurance. Have no other labor support, first time in 10 years. And then if there's any high risk medical condition, there will be an issue in terms of getting it covered. But I go so far as, I go, through the kind of getting to know the individual who is pregnant. So in terms of the traditional midwifery, it's so good to hear, like, literally, I'm the shaman of the family. Like, so I'm the alien bruja on this planet. And we go through to the birthing proxies, because I also don't play that game with my birth mom's placenta and the umbilical cord and the stuff that I need after the baby is here. So I go through a postpartum care, which a lot of doulas don't do, that just invests me more into the experience, because I'm a La Leche mom. I'm a mother of twins. I had twins. The second baby was compromised. I have delivered 2 of my own, but like, we're not going to do this. Babies is what I do. Like, I touch a yoni. I teach people. I handle now, since I traveled to 24 countries in Africa, mutilated genitalia. Like, when we do this from a somatic level, but I have to do it from a spiritual level. Otherwise, I can't do it. If you subscribe to the, I don't believe it can happen, or I need the doctor to make it happen, honey, we've been birthing babies since before your doctor had their education. And I really, really get people into a mind, body, soul approach, and the family ready to receive this star seed. And I do believe that children pick their parents. So I have 5. My daughter has, I had Jackson 5, and my daughter has Menudo, because the Puerto Rican gene in my family, she met a man who has more Puerto Rican than they got Menudo. So it is like postpartum depression. Like, I don't like, that is a subscription that when we celebrate the birth of the star seed, so part of the advocacy, please get it to continue to have, at least for the mom, 3 months after care, to introduce this young person into the family, because it's like bringing home a new appliance. Like, I don't know how to use that. What's that? Where'd that come from? It does not have rules or an instruction manual. And so that's the part that not that we forgot about it, that wasn't on the table. We're getting the legislature discussed and getting them, there's tons of resources now where there weren't resources when I was having children. So that, again, was part of the fight. I think I know who's up in your area. So I literally, when you were speaking, I went through the women that I retired at Engender Health, who are all midwives and doulas, who were working for Engender to get this initiative done. And now that they are retired, they live in the East Coast border. So they were absolute advocates, like the Respond program, literally getting from a nutritional value of you're carrying a starseed to what you can, what you should be eating, how you should be preparing, to, you know, the conversation around whether you can handle breastfeeding and why you wouldn't want to do. I've done lotus birth. Like, I love a good lotus birth. Like, that for me is a beautiful thing. And to watch a baby find the breast is just, it's a world of, when people say they watch television, I was like, I don't have time for television. I live it. I got theater. I got baby theater. Baby theater is better than anything I've ever seen. But to include, because 9 times out of 10, a lot of our families don't have the father in that's present. So I make you pick an accountability. You got to bring this person into a village that is going to support this child, so that we can then get rid of some of the issues that then, because there's some systemic issues that are going to come across this whole process. And I pull the grandmamas in and the aunties. I do, because I'd rather have on deck auntie who's overzealous in the birthing chamber with me than to have the father who's unpresent and not purposed in his intention about why he made the starseed and whether or not he's going to continue a relationship. Don't want you, sit down, boop, it's hard no for me. So just in terms of, again, now working with heal.me, we're getting the ability, because most people don't realize in the birthing plan, one thing that we get to do is write a plan. You think about a plan for your birth. And that for me, it was what supported, I think, Medicaid's decision, because there's a plan in place, where sometimes a traditional OBGYN doesn't have a plan. They just have they know you're pregnant. They put you on this very, very calculated, this visit, and toward the last trimester, we're going to see X, Y, and Z, down to trauma care. So what happens when we're hemorrhaging? So most people don't know, if they don't dabble in the fact that this traditional first thing that we've ever done on earth is a thing, that a piece of the umbilical cord into the mouth, I'm gonna let you're gonna hold it, but your womb is gonna stop. The hemorrhaging is gonna stop. And most people don't understand some of the tips and tricks of how our bodies have our natural feedback system, and we can get over that. So sometimes in the twin moment, when baby number 2 has a different decision, or has their hands, or requires an episiotomy, like their baby number 2 sometimes is definitely, which was my daughter, is always the testy point of, I wouldn't have you take that to the agenda. I would definitely say there's definitely for me a 3-month postpartum care that I would love written in this legislation that allows us to continue to have a relationship with them, so that they don't suffer as much with the postpartum, and that we integrate the baby into the family, so that we then create healthy lifestyles, and that we are supportive of the agenda, because they're like, oh well, we know where there's SNAP and now feeding, I'm in Westchester. Feeding Westchester has this thing now where the formula is becoming an issue. And I was like, trust and believe, allow me to have 3 months and encourage someone to breastfeed. The formula is not that I want that issue off the agenda. And during COVID, I took everybody off of formula and put them on plant-based formula. So if I've got that window of time to be able to enrich that experience and stay connected to that family as a caregiver. And so first it was Flex Dollars. So we were covered. We got the Flex Dollars covered, but now Medicaid is on the agenda. So I thank you for your time. Today's my client day. Like, so as you saw, I was like getting off one, getting it in. I was like, I'm coming. But yeah, no, I'm on 125 babies, and peep this, queens, all male with the exception of my children. Wow. I've never touched a girl child.
Wow.
And so Oracle June Gatlin, who works for Michael Beckwith, and I'll land my plane there, said to me, Holy Holly, she was like, you raising a nation because only a Black woman can do that. I said, say less, sis. I was like, say less, sis. I'll keep on my agenda. But so now for me, I'm stopping. I'm now teaching, because I know I got to teach this. I got to give this to another generation, because there are other alien brujas out here that just like me, who their family knows this stuff. And I'm taking on, so now my next agenda is the death doula conversation, right? So I can't just do life and not do death, and do integration in the middle and not do the whole story. So I got to do the death doula certification, and I'm coming for you then, because you got to have it. There's almost the similar process
Absolutely.
in terms of the care. So I got keep in touch, please, and please.
Absolutely.
I love y'all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I tell you, I can feel your passion. It fills my womb. I'm like literally feeling your energy. And what a blessing to have someone like you in that process, because it is such a spiritual journey. I mean, it's the closest. I remember my grandmother saying this to me all the time. When a woman has a baby, it's the closest she'll ever come to death. And I never understood that until I had my children. And I was like, there's something so precious and so sacred in what we do. And this is why I have gained such tremendous respect, admiration, and adoration for women like you, like for the queens that are actually taking on the responsibility of making sure that our seeds survive, that our children are born healthy, and that our mothers are healthy, and that it's a good experience. I mean, you talked about the 3-month postpartum. I believe that's very important. And that needs to be covered. I mean, the mothers themselves, here we have the most expansive paid family medical leave legislation. That was almost a 10-hour debate for me on the floor of the House, but we got it done. And, up to 12 weeks off with pay, and an extra 4 weeks if you run into complications coming out of the pregnancy or during the pregnancy, because we know up to 1 year postpartum, we're still losing our babies and our moms. So it's not just, during birth or after birth. There's this 12-month window that we really have to take heed to and make sure that we're getting things right. Angelica, thank you for coming on camera. I was reading your comments.
Yeah, and I just I don't want to go out of order, but Angelica's actually in the parking lot at a birth. So I appreciate you all for jumping on, and I know you all are on call and things of that nature. So Angelica, if you can just, share before you have to go, I would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I actually got the call at 8:00 this morning. And it was, when you get the call and they're like, I think it's time. It's like, so you're getting everything in order. And then I saw the message in my inbox that said, don't forget. I was like, oh, dang. So I'm multitasking a little bit today. It's okay, though. Hi, everyone. I am Angelica Knight. I am located in Greensboro, North Carolina. But it's funny because I think I had been hosted on the podcast a couple of years ago, and we found out that I am, first of all, a native. I was born in New Haven, Connecticut. My father still resides there. A lot of my siblings are still there. My mother was working for a long time in the hospital there. So I'm very familiar with New Haven. Yes.
Okay.
It was kind of funny how we came full circle on the podcast, and we had the realization of, oh, this connection is here. So I have no problem in showing up for my home state in these situations. I've been a birth doula, like I said, for 3 years. And now I've been pursuing lactation because, as like you all said, a part of the conversation, there's a lot of pieces to the issue of Black maternal health and infant mortality, as well as maternal mortality. And the conversation around breastfeeding and human milk has been kind of my focal point these last few days. Even pursuing the IBCLC portion. So now when I go to births, one of the focal points that I like to hit on is getting that first latch and really following up and making sure that moms have the appropriate care in terms of making sure that they have all their needs met during their breastfeeding journey through that postpartum experience. As one of my favorite sayings that I've come across is, breastfeeding may be natural, but it is not easy. And it's one of the first things that can fall by the wayside, especially if they don't feel they have adequate support or appropriate resources. So I think, especially with our complicated history as Black women and our relationship to breastfeeding, my mother breastfed me and my siblings. However, when I dug deeper into our family history, she was not breastfed, her siblings weren't breastfed, and the list kind of goes on. And when you look into the history of it, it is really related to enslavement and slavery, about how we have this innate distrust, but even how we had to prioritize other people's children over our own. So with that rooted in our community, I feel like I felt comfortable really pushing the focal point of our baby's milk, or our body's milk, is best for our babies. And that is one of the easiest, or one of the focal points we can point to make sure our babies are the healthiest that they can be. I have seen in clinical settings, I've seen white providers easily pass a bottle of formula to a Black child. And I have been the one to say, we're not doing that, just because it's more convenient. I think that's been something I've seen consistently, is there's a little bit of implicit bias, or a lot of implicit bias with white providers. They don't even realize what they're doing anymore. And that's why us, as not just LCs, but as birth doulas, have to really step in and make sure we're able to assist and provide additional support, not just those first few days of life, but even after they have transitioned home and through that postpartum experience. I have now gotten to the point where I'm doing some lactation education with doulas down here. We all love birth. I love birth too. It's where I started. But what kind of pulled me into lactation was I had no idea what was going on. I do not have any children of my own yet, so I had no idea the inner workings and how much information can really be provided. So now that I have all this information, I'm like, what better way to help transition into the postpartum period by making sure that these doulas know clear signs of things like mastitis. How do we help give parents relief on knowing that their supply is enough? Social media has so much disinformation about supply. So many of these women think that they don't have enough milk when they have more than enough. So just making sure we have the right information available and not allowing, personal perceptions of our bodies and how we can provide for our children affect our mental health when we already have all of the hormonal imbalances of postpartum going on. And that's not even, like you said, just through that first 6 weeks or even 12 weeks. I've seen it happen as long as for a year. And it's really just making sure we're providing the right kind of support. So I am, like I said, in this parking lot, but this client particularly also, she did not want to latch her baby. And even in saying that, I knew I still had to emphasize the importance of human milk. So also making sure that they have options. You do not have to latch your baby for your baby to get your milk. We could talk about pumping. We could talk about donor milk. We could talk about community milk sharing. There are so many options compared to if you say this to a white provider or a white LC, they're going to give them a bottle of formula every time. So that is where that missing link comes in for us as people of color, as Black women, providing this care and improving breastfeeding rates, because the relationship between human milk and maternal mortality and infant mortality, it's not just the babies, it's us, we benefit too, is
Amen.
real. So that's my little segue. I appreciate y'all for inviting me on and being so patient with me today. I think that I will be transitioning into this hospital. But if you I put my info below, please email me. Please contact me if you want to touch up and follow up. There is less than 1% of Black IBCLCs in this country. And it's ridiculous that is that statistic. I sat for my exam. I find out in June, and I know I passed that thing. I'm just waiting for them to tell me I did.
I know that's right.
So being the
waiting on the manifestation. Amen.
Because the fact that I applied for a job and I saw no one who looked like me. Every job I have applied for, no one looks like me. And I'm like, no wonder we don't have people supporting breastfeeding in our communities. So
that's so true. And I had the experience of having a preemie. My daughter, my second child, I have a love child and a miracle baby. And it's like she was 1 pound 11 ounces, 25 weeks gestation, 13 inches long, not big as my hand when she came. And I was fortunate though. Like I had her in Atlanta. And they were very supportive. The nurses in the NICU were nurses that had been there for decades. And they really did pay attention. I saw the note in the chat about, and it's true, you really do have to expose them more so to making sure that these babies are getting their mom's milk. But I didn't have that issue. They were like, we got these electric pumps. We got this room you can go in. We can get you started, get you ready. And
we can get you right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's initially how she started out, like on the little tiny bottles. Well, actually, they were little syringes at first. They use
the syringes because their tummies are so small.
Yeah, it was amazing. But I mean, like everything that you said is absolutely true. I mean, we know the benefits of breastfeeding, less ear infections, less illness, right? There less colds. It's just it
5 children. I don't even know what you're saying. None of them had a colic. I didn't even know what colic was. Wow. First of all, they didn't have ear infections. I used to tell, and when they got older, so I just tried to breastfeed to at least 2, if not continue to pump and then have supply, right? And again, that's like, oh my God, you just reminded me. It's like, and it was interesting. So my daughter chose not to breastfeed only because she had a scar when she was little. So we pumped. But the moment of latching is, I hate to know that somebody actually said no. Like that moment, even if you're not intending to breastfeed, that's you get one shot. Do not miss your chance to rock. This opportunity comes once, and like you're gonna have to wait a whole nother night. Like you got to go through a whole process to even know what that feels like. And then my niece just had $1 million babies. I call them because they fit in the palm of your hand. I was like, and then they turned out to be 6 feet tall and talk about, hey, you got sandwiches, you got bacon, So I love you. You came in right after I just started talking about that, and it's a pleasure to know you did ace that test. We're not gonna say you got it. Claim it. Victory is here and now, and in the now.
We're gonna celebrate in this moment. Yes.
Heck yeah, we need more. It warms my heart to know. Even when Hafiza called out that we have a rise up of women wanting to take this back. And there's the Afina Center down in Texas. I had the pleasure to go. If you get a chance to go down there, go see what they do in Big Texas. They're really, really, really taking back their state. So to imagine if we can get some act right up around in here, we'd be all right. So no, I love it. I'm hanging on to the last minute. I'm hanging on.
To show y'all my miracle baby. See my miracle baby? I don't know why she ain't coming. Oh, you know what it is? I think I got it blurred.
It's a blur.
John.
Yeah, you have your screen blurred.
Yeah. Here she is. That's a miracle baby. Almost 30 years old. They said she had a 10% chance of living. I said put a 0 on that and make it 100. Because that's the God I
know
serve.
that's right.
She gonna be all right. He didn't bring me this far to take my baby. But that's some good stuff. I'm gonna give it back to you, Hafiza, because we
We're gonna keep going if we're not careful. And this woman is text. She's like, "Where are you? Let me get up. I will."
And we definitely want to honor everyone's time. So thank you, Angelica. Definitely, if you have to step away, we understand. But thank you for taking the time.
And I will be in touch because I'm very interested to know who your people are in New Haven.
Yes, and you'll know. I'll fill you in a little later. You definitely know they're good people. And
okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well,
thank y'all so much.
Yes,
thank you. Take care. And I appreciate you, Gianna, for the information that you're putting in the chat around education and what's going on in Pittsburgh around the donor milk. That's something that would be an added bonus for any mother having preemies or just struggling with breast milk. Butterflies don't decide that they don't want to fly.